SoresanCrockxen clan members, anime fans, and others who have stumbled upon this video. I'm SoresanCrockxen, and today we're touching upon Higurashi no Naku Koro. Now, Higurashi is an anime that I started really long time ago. I just finished the first season, and that's because I put it on hold. But not for the same reasons as Dragon Drive. Dragon Drive was just a freaking terrible series that I just needed a break from. Higurashi I actually enjoyed, but I had a little issue with it. And it's not anything to do with the series, it's actually something personal. I'm a person who can't handle horror movies or horror shows or anything that has to do with the horror genre. In my family, between me and my sister, well, this is how the comparison always goes. My sister can stomach any horror any horror show, any horror movie, anything. But at nighttime, she has trouble sleeping. I, on the other hand, can't watch it while it's on, right? I freak out all the time. Anything that happens freaks me out. But then later in the night, I sleep just fine because I end up going, I don't know why. I guess while I'm watching it, I freak out because it's there. But afterwards, I'm like, I rationalize. I don't know what I do. The point is, I can't stomach that stuff. So, but when I decided to watch Higurashi, I had this mindset of I want to watch an anime from every genre. Now, I still haven't touched upon the more mature aspect of animes, the hentais and that aspect, and I'm probably not going to for a couple of years. That's gonna be like the last thing I even bother with. But I decided to ask the Insane Game Freak because a lot of animes that he talks about I end up watching anyways. Super Fly. So I asked him, hey Game, you have suggestions for horror animes? And he recommended Higurashi. And so I was watching it. And the plot line for Higurashi is essentially like a friend of mine put it along the lines of it's like Groundhog's Day, which you can kind of admit, but the way it works is it's split up into separate storylines that are all supposed to be, it's the same month. Right, it's always the same month that they're always talking about, but they go about it different ways. There'll be one time where one of the characters ends up going psychotic, but another time they're the ones that's always calm. Now, there's only one character in every single iteration of the first season that stays the same consistently, and that is the blue-haired chick that you guys probably saw in the intro. Her name is Rika. And Rika is the only one that was consistently the same character in every single one. She was always a good one, the good guy. Well, technically, yeah, she's basically an entity. Every time something happens, she was always either the beacon of hope or the voice of reason, or essentially, they always died. I'll say that straight up right now. Everybody died in most of the iterations. And even she died. But the thing is, she was always the one that was either she saw what was going to happen, right? So she could foresee the future, or she already knew. Because she knows every iteration. In fact, in the last iteration, because I honestly thought they were all separate, but in the last iteration, she comes out and flat out says to the male main character, flat out tells him this has happened before. And he actually ends up having a flashback from the first iteration of the story of himself, because he was the one that went psychotic first. And then she flat out told him, then yes, this has been going on multiple times, and they always repeat the same month, and the events that doesn't surround them are always the same. But what happens between them themselves is what's always changing. So I was watching the series, and I got through most of the first season, and then I just couldn't handle it anymore. Like my brain itself, I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't watch it. Right? I was at a point where I'm like, I honestly can't handle this at this moment, so I'm gonna give it a break. And I had watched it by that point 3 different iterations, with 3 different people going psychotic type of stuff. So I had watched 3 iterations, and I just needed that break because I couldn't handle it anymore. And then I decided to go back to it around the same time I went back. You know, actually, the funny thing is, I stopped watching Dragon Drive and Higurashi at the same time, but for just completely different reasons. Dragon Drive was just a piece of shit, and then Higurashi, I just personally couldn't handle the series yet. And now I went back to it, and I went back to them both at the same time. I finished Dragon Drive first because I was technically almost done with it. Like literally that show, I was almost done with it, and this one I still had a couple episodes left to go. Okay, this fly is seriously getting annoying. Uh, Go away. Uh, and I watched it, and you know what? I feel like I personally can handle it now. There were still a couple scenes that I honestly couldn't stomach, and I actually had to pause and walk away for a couple seconds because I needed to take a break. I needed to take a breather because there was one scene that was literally just a torture scene, and they were using a device that's supposed to rip out nails. And I honestly, like, I watched, like, it was one of the characters. She had to rip off her own nails, and it was like a device that you put your hand in it, and then the thing goes under your nail, and you gotta slam it, the device, and then this part goes. And I saw, and by the time she popped the second nail, she had to pop out three. When she popped the second nail and it didn't come off all the way, I honestly had to pause the video or the episode and just walk away, get some water, relax for a little bit, and then come back to it because I honestly couldn't handle that. But I pushed through. I finished the first season, and you know, I gotta admit, the last iteration wasn't that bad. I mean, it still had its moments, but I was able to deal with them in a way where I honestly feel comfortable continuing the rest of the series. And I'm gonna finish this series. I'm going to finish it. I've made this my solemn goal for the rest of 2014 and entering, because it's a pretty long series. There's a lot of material. So I'm hoping that I finish it, if not by December. Cause I honestly don't think I'm gonna finish it by December, because like I said, I think there's like 4 seasons and then like 4 OVAs or something like that. I'm gonna finish that later, maybe next, like maybe hopefully by March. I'll see, like between December and March. So let's give that time frame. And I'm gonna give reviews for each season. Don't like I'm gonna do it. But overall, I like the characters. I do like the characters. It was always nice to see somebody else being the one that goes insane. Each iteration had its own moments. Like for the first one, Keiichi, which is the male main character, basically had problems trusting his friends. He actually thought they were actually, even as a viewer, I honestly thought that it was Mion, which is the green haired girl from the intro, and then Rena, which is the orange haired girl. I thought they were the ones that were psychotic, and they kind of showed it off that way. But when we got to the last iteration, we realized that Keiichi was just imagining everything, and he actually killed everybody. He himself killed every single one of them. And then I don't even remember how he died, to be quite honest. But I know he did. Now here I should probably say what the similarities between or what stays the same. Essentially, they live in this place called Hinazimawa, something like that. It's a weird name like that. And essentially, there's supposed to be this curse that happens every year, where people die and then somebody goes missing. That is the basis of the village, and they have this rule where if you live there, if you go there, you can never leave. And they always reiterate that fact every single one. But they never explain. I mean, they always say, "Oh, the curse will get you," but they never. It wasn't until the last iteration where we realized what the true meaning behind that saying was. And the way it was is back years, like just years, when the village wasn't even called that. There was a plague in the village, and there was a doctor who was considered, or who's basically the curse is named after that person. He was a doctor, and he cured her. He treated the symptoms, but he couldn't cure the disease. So essentially, he made a rule where nobody could come into the village, so they wouldn't get infected, and nobody could leave because they would get infected. or the biggest problem with that is when they left the village, the virus itself started acting up, making them go crazy because the infection, whatever it was inside of them, could only survive inside the village. Thus, if they tried to leave, the virus would be going insane because it can only survive in that particular place, and thus the host becomes insane and starts going on a rampage. So the doctor made this rule, and so people followed it, and now anytime somebody leaves, in order to please their god, which isn't even a god, they basically go through this whole curse where if you try to leave, you're going to die, or something bad's going to happen to you, you're going to disappear. So all this stuff was happening. The village is ruled by 3 families. The Sonozaki, I don't remember because she's by herself, and then the other one, which isn't even relevant because it's not really a main one. Like there's nobody that should matter. And they have this whole anti-government thing because they tried to build a dam in near the village, which would have flooded the village. And so that's when the curse started happening. People from the outside were trying to come into the village and do some stuff, and people started dying. People who were affiliated with the dam, or people who basically like even in the village, like people who were okay with the people that were building the dam, they ended up dying or disappearing. There was one particular family which one of the main characters is a part of, which is the Hojo family. They were basically all killed except for the little girl, which is Satoko, which is the blonde chick in the intro for this video. I honestly keep telling you, goes back to go with her brother was kidnapped and he disappeared, and they actually put a whole storyline around that too. So there's plenty of like psychotic stuff that's going on in this entire village, and it's just and so that stuff stays the same. It's always during this festival. There's a festival that happens, and that's when all the stuff happens. We see the festival once during each iteration, and it's 2 people die. It's a photographer, and she always changed what she was. Once she was a reporter, once she was a nurse, once she was just a person that was there. Like she kept changing what she was. So you honestly couldn't really just point a finger and say she's that. So she kind of changed, but it was always the same chick, right? It was always the same girl, a female, or the same lady technically. But they both died, and they always died the same way. The guy clawed his throat out, and the lady would burn to death. Yes, that's how they always died. And so yeah, so in a way, the people who died were always the same. Like the ones from the past were always the same people that died, and they always died in the same way. Somebody fell down to the dam and then was killed that way. Somebody was drowned in a waterfall. There was all this stuff stays the same. It's just what happens with the main cast that's always changing. They actually pulled something over you. The second iteration is actually the same as the second to last iteration, but with a twist. Because in the second version of that iteration, we actually get to see the before, and then basically what happens in the second iteration of the season is what happens after that first part in the second to last one. And they kind of coincide. Basically, around the same things happen, and so you got to get a feel of what happened in this one wasn't what you thought, because we thought it was one of the girls, because there's 2 twins, Neon and Shion. They're twins. I don't think that Shion is in the intro, but we got to feel that it was Neon, but it actually ended up being Shion in the other one. So maybe they just switched it around. Or maybe it was Shion all along in the other one. I don't know. But it's a pretty good series. I highly recommend it. Just if you're a fan of Heart, go at it easy. But anyways, guys, this has been SoresanCrockxen. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys next time with a future video.